Hi, I'm PJ Cook. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to paint pretty beach roses and a nice seascape scene with the ocean, some waves in the distance, and a foreground beach path with pink roses. And I'm going to be using wet into wet technique in this tutorial for the beach roses. And here I have done the background sky with a simple wash, and then also the ocean using phthalo blue, green shade. And I'm adding just a suggestion of waves and foam on the sand where the waves are breaking. And I made that with just using my Quin Rose with a little bit of ultramarine blue. And I'm trying to just soften a little bit of the edges there. I am working on a 9x12 watercolor block, Saunders Waterford, and I don't use blocks too often, but they are very convenient. Here I'm going to put in a light value of sand, so I'm pre-wetting the area with a 1-inch flat brush. And just lightly putting clear water down. And then I've taken, it's a raw sienna, very light raw sienna mix here. A little bit darker. And I'm just laying that on the wet paper, letting it blend itself. Don't make it too perfect. I'm going to spatter to add some texture. So I'm just going to cover over the water area so I don't get any spattering up there. And I'm going to take a little bit stronger color of the raw sienna, maybe a little bit of French ochre. And I'm going to tap that against a brush handle, and it'll just disperse into the wet paint and just create irregular value there, which is nice. I'm going to darken that ocean a little bit. Same color, phthalo blue, green shade. I'm going to lay that in. Try and get it as straight, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And then I've taken a drier brush and I'm pulling the edge there, softening it. I let the whole thing dry, and now I'm going to start the beach roses. So I've taken this clear water and kind of adding it in irregular areas here, leaving just little patches of dry paper, but the rest is all going to be pretty wet. That's a mop brush, and it's pretty large, holds a lot of paint and a lot of water. That's what I like about them. So anywhere where I want these beach roses, I'm adding water there. Here's my fan brush, fairly large. I think it's a size 6. And with the damp paper, I'm going in with fairly strong color. And I think I've mixed some Indian yellow and New Gamboge yellow, both transparent colors, with some of the ultramarine blue. And I will, here you can see I've probably add some Quin Sienna to that, or some of the raw sienna to make a warmer green. Change the values of the green. Modify the color a little bit of the green. Spin, twist, move that fan brush all around. I'm moving closer to the foreground. I'm adding some darker values. So my paper is still wet here. But you have a pretty good working time. The paper will stay wet for quite a long time. So I'm working down towards the beach path area where I'm going to not have any foliage, a little path towards the beach. Using stronger color, a little darker color, vary the color. Most time with mixing my greens with a yellow and a blue, I will also add a little touch of the red that I'm using. This is Quin Rose in this painting. So all of add a little red into all of your greens, and it will modify the color. It's not quite so intense. So the same thing on the right side here. I pre-wet that area, and I'm just adding more details. And now I'm adding, with the Quin Rose, I'm adding just simple little beach roses. Nothing perfect. A few in the dry areas that I left, and then some right in the damp areas. And I kind of like that. It should kind of has some that are not in focus. Vary the spacing. Add a few more with more intensity of paint. Remember, watercolor always dries a little lighter. Again, same spattering technique. Taking some of the darker green and spattering it over the beach roses area. Just gives a little texture. Here I'm just going to add a little bit darker color for the leaves. This is a round brush. Little fine details. Just even little dots. Visually are nice. I have put in a few suggestions of footprints here. With the raw sienna, French ochre, and for those tall grasses, the wispy tops, I'm going to use that fan brush. And I've got some of the Quin Gold, maybe mixed with some of the raw sienna, and just doing just a little flip for those tops. Here's a rigger brush, which is nice for thin lines for some of the stalks. And I'm just adding little dots of green. Just kind of flick the brush, make all different little shapes. When you're painting, try to use more of your arm and not just your hand. And you'll kind of get a better stroke of the paintbrush. Adding just a few darks. Using a little bit darker green with the French ultramarine and the yellow New Gamboge, and suggest darker leaves in that bottom right, bottom left area. At this point, my paper is fairly dry, so anything I'm painting, the edges are harder. I'm adding the center to the beach roses with a little bit of the Juan Brilliant, which I like from Holbein. It's more of an opaque color. I flipped the paper upside down here, and I'm going to add a little value to the beach path. Just using my 1-inch brush. A little bit of the raw sienna. And the last step, signing your name. I use a rigger brush. One of the things I loved about this Cape Cod beach scene was the contrast between the soft pink beach roses and the sandy shoreline. I used a fan brush to create the natural texture, and I then added 2 small figures walking along the beach to bring it to life and give it a sense of scale. I hope you enjoyed this painting with me today. If you have any questions about the techniques or colors I used, leave them in the comments below.